and welcome to another episode of Autism Family Life, bringing you all things autism, family, and life in 30 minutes or less. Before we begin this week's episode, I just want to remind you to give a little love and subscribe to the Autism Family Life podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, or wherever you may be getting your podcast from. Or if you are tuning in on YouTube, hello and welcome. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, Corey at Home, which is the host of Autism Family Life. On to this week's episode. We are still kind of in the initial diagnosis talk. In the past couple of episodes, I've talked about the initial diagnosis, how I went through all the things with the diagnosis, but especially with the guilt. And that guilt, the mom guilt, which, so many of us, whether we have a child on the autism spectrum or not, we go through this mom guilt. And part of it, I think, just it's our own internal voice that says we aren't doing enough and that we're never going to do enough. And, so that's a lot of mindset work right there that we as individuals have to go through. And then there's the other parts of it that just kind of come from this community of mom shaming, which really sucks. And I don't know how else to put that, just because it's terrible that we're mom shaming, that we're still mom shaming, and we're not looking for ways to be a supportive community, and that we're not looking for ways to build each other up. And yeah, I admit I am one of those people that, yes, from time to time, I do fall into the judgment trap. There are certain things that I will judge people on. I try not to make too many snap judgments just because I don't know what someone's going through. I don't know what their day has been like. I don't know the particulars of their work situation, their home life. I don't know. So I've tried not to be one of those people who looks at someone else and says, oh, well, they're such a crappy parent because they aren't, whatever. I've just tried not to be one of those people. And most of the time, I can tell you that I want to be one of those more open-minded, accepting people. Sometimes it works, and sometimes, I'm not perfect. I'm a human being, but I also fully acknowledge and I'm aware of the fact that yes, I can be pretty judgmental. It's human nature. So in today's episode, moving beyond like the mom guilt and all that stuff, and really the mom shaming, I was originally going to have this episode be about like mom stress and being a super mom and all that other stuff. But since I started on this little ranting / venting about mom shaming, why don't we talk about building up a support network? Because having a support network and having your mom tribe, that is so huge. Again, not just for parents of kids on the autism spectrum or kids with special needs, but just moms in general. But for those of us who have kids with special needs or kids on the autism spectrum, it can be a little bit more difficult to find this tribe and to find this group of moms who understand and moms who get it. And further, it seems like there's this divide in the autism parenting community just in general that between the low functioning and the high functioning, which are two terms and labels that I'm really not a huge fan of, just because it doesn't describe the full. It's limiting and it's not describing the full child. But still, there seems to be this division even among parents in that aspect, which really sucks too. Because it's like you're playing this game of like, well, my kid's autism is worse than your kid's autism. You're just like, really? Why don't we just look past all this minute kind of petty crap and just recognize and realize that we're all just parents trying to do the best that we can for our kids. And quite honestly, if I'm in a support group like that where it's posturing and positioning of, my kid's autism is worse, or you're not going to understand it because, blah, 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 then that's really not a support network I want to be a part of. Because at the end of the day, it's just going to bring me down, and I can't. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I can create enough of my own drama and I can find enough of my own negative situations on my own. I don't need someone else contributing to that. So, anyway, I tell you all of this because finding that tribe and finding this support group is so, so, so important. But for so many of us who have a child on the autism spectrum, we are often left looking, or we're on the outside looking in, because those regular, like the mom groups and whatever else that they have, they may not always understand our exact situation. And, I say this too, in that I may not be able to relate to or understand your exact situation with every single thing. And just like you might not be able to understand and relate to my exact situation, uh, just because our kids are different, our family lives are different. And I don't want that to be the thing that separates parents from finding a support group and from finding a support network. And it was one of the reasons why I created my online group, Autism Family Life. Yes, it's the same as the podcast, Autism Family Life. And it is a free online Facebook support group where the ultimate goal is to bring parents and caregivers together in a non judgmental and supportive environment where we can have these open discussions and open dialogue and talk freely amongst ourselves about the ups, the downs, the struggles, the joys, and just be open and honest and respectful about these things. And it's the one of the reasons why I am creating um, what I'm tentatively calling the Autism Parenting Connection, which takes the Autism Family Life concept one step further. Um, I have big dreams and I have big visions, but I had to start small. So I started small with the Autism Family Life free Facebook group. And then I'm taking it one step further when I get into the Autism Parenting Connection. I don't want to talk about it too much right now because I don't want it to take away from the importance of the message of this episode. And the message on this episode is building that support network, and finding a support network and nurturing your support network. So having that support group and that support network means that you have at least one place where you can go that's going to be judgment free and where you can have open dialogue and discussion and where you can just let everything off your chest. And I think that's so important because, especially for parents of kids on the autism spectrum, we might be hesitant to say something because we think that people aren't going to get it or that people just aren't going to understand. And I wanted my group, Autism Family Life, to be a place where we could have these open discussions, this open dialogue, and where everybody could be, just not afraid to share their story. And that was my goal for the podcast. That's been my goal for my blog as well. And it's connecting with like minded people to be that support network and to be part of that village, um, where we aren't judging each other, or we're not trying to say, well, my situation is worse than yours, because where it's more of offering our tips, offering our advice, and giving that virtual ear and that virtual shoulder, um, that we may not be able to find in your average Facebook mom group. And, I don't know about you, but I tend to avoid a lot of those Facebook parenting groups, unless they're very specific and topic based. Like, I'm part of a few homeschooling mom groups because we are homeschooling, or looking into homeschooling our youngest daughter. or I'm part of a couple of special needs mom support groups, mostly local, because I'm trying to build up that local network. But then I tried, to find some other groups, and the ups and downs for those, it, and maybe it's just me, it's again finding that division of, well, my situation is worse than yours because, which is crap. Um, but then, one of my other struggles, or one of the other reasons that I look for these online support groups and these online spaces, um, I think I mentioned it in either the last episode or in the episode before that. I am an INFJ, and which means basically I'm an introvert. So if you go by those Myers Briggs personality types, INFJs uh, were one of the 16 personality types, and INFJ is one of the introverts. And social situations for me are not easy. I don't always like them, even with people I know. But being online gives me the ability and the opportunity to socialize and network with people on my own time and at my own comfort level. So that's why I like these online support groups. That's why I started my own. That's why I started the podcast. That's why I have my blog. But then I'm also learning, recognizing, realizing, yeah, it's really important to have mom friends who get it, um, on this. And if you can find those mom friends on a personal level and in, within your own community, go for it. Because having that understanding ear and knowing that you can just pick up the phone and talk to someone who gets it, that is huge. Because you can be able to, just get everything out there and get what's on your mind out of your head. And being able to do that, that is so, so important. Because if we just keep all of this inside, it's just going to eat us up, and it's going to eat away, and it's not healthy. Um, which again, that's one of the other reasons why I do what I do. And eventually, I'll have this in my show notes. Um, I would love to be a part of your virtual support network. Um, Reach out to me. I'm going to put my contact information in the show notes for this episode, and I'm going to put in a scheduler button, um, so we can just jump on a call. Again, like I said, I'm an introvert, and this is how I choose to network. So, importance of mom groups, support networks, specifically for moms of parents on the autism spectrum. And I would ask you and kindly beg of you, please do not be that mom who goes into the support groups and says, my kid's situation is worse than your kid's situation, or my situation is worse than your situation. Nobody wants to be that mom. Nobody likes that mom. Please don't be that mom. Until next time, I hope you have an awesome day, and I will talk to you soon.